Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 111th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. The team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Killer B. He's called himself Elit's Killer B today. Elit's was a very old clan right from the early days of Rome Total War, and for some reason this game has decided to put Elit's on the front of his name, but it is Brotherhood member Killer B, and he has brought the Rome BROTHERHOOD faction. Then we have Brotherhood member Sacred, who has brought the Rome Scipii faction. And then we have myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought an experimental Carthage army here. We're up against two Macedon armies, which is unusual, so I thought I'd bring this this experimental Carthage army. It'll be interesting to see how well it does against the long pikes of Macedon. So there's our team there, full of experience. I think we've all been playing RTW right from the beginning, so this should be a great game to watch. And here is the other team. We have RTW player Scorpion King SR. He's called himself FTD in this battle, but it is Scorpion King SR. Then we have Greek Cleomenes. He's called himself Greek Lake Damon in this battle, but it is Greek Cleomenes. And then we have Titans Mohammed, and Cleomenes and Mohammed have both bought the Macedon faction. So there's the other team, full of, I'm sure you would agree, really great players, and well-known players too. And I think this will be a good battle to watch. Okay, I'm just going to pause the game for a second, just to have a quick chat about the other team. As I've said before in other battle videos, the Greek clan's mission on RTW was to be the best clan with pikes, with the pike factions. And they spent hours and hours and hours practicing with the pike faction until I think most RTW players would agree they are the best clan with pikes. And Cleomenes is extremely good with Macedon. That's why he likes playing with them so much. So, it's always a challenge. And then we have Titans Mohammed. I think he plays with Macedon nearly as much as he plays with Rome, so he's very comfortable with Macedon, and he plays with them extremely well as well. So that's two massive pike armies there. And then we have the experienced Scorpion King SR with his Julia army. So looking at the enemy team there, I think this is going to be one heck of a battle, and has the ingredients to be maybe even a classic. At this very early stage of the battle, you can see that Greek's Cleomenes is putting his Cretan archers out to the left flank with a view to shoot in arrows into the flanks of our army there. As you can see, I'm bringing my Balearic slingers over to try and kill those archers, or at least make them retreat. As you can see, my slingshot starting to hit some of those archers in that particular unit. And as they run away, can you see there's a few of them left dead on the battlefield. So bringing the slingers over actually achieved what we wanted there, just to get rid of those archers from our flanks. If you notice, though, there's a Macedon cavalry unit there. So I want to pull my slingers back, because my guess is if I move forward any more, then obviously that cavalry unit would have smashed into them. So I'll pull them back a bit now. If you notice that Cleomenes is swinging his Macedon army round to the left flank there, obviously doing a left flanking action there. But remember now, if you notice, I've got 4 slinger units there, and they're firing into the Macedon units moving out to our left. Meanwhile, over on our right, you can see that SR is moving some of his cavalry around out there. But at the moment, it seems a bit quiet on our right flank. As I was saying earlier, with all the slingers I've got there behind my Carthage army, they're firing their slingshots into Cleomenes' Macedon army all the time. There you go, it's a close-up of them throwing their slingshot into the Macedons. So they're causing Cleomenes' his infantry casualties all the time, and especially while they're moving. So if you like, every time he's moving, he's incurring more casualties from my slinger units there. But as you see now, can you see that his Macedon ally now, Mohammed, is bringing round his Macedon army as well here. I don't know, maybe they're looking to try and double team me. Imagine each one of those Macedon units have got 120 men in with very long pikes. Imagine that those couple of Macedon armies double teaming my Carthage army. That would be just great for what they'd like to do there. As I said earlier, that my slingers are firing slingshot into Cleomenes' pikemen all the time here. So he's here. I'm just going to pause the game here for a second. Let's just have a look at what's happening over the battlefield here. As you can see, our ally Killer with his Brutii army there is over on our far right flank and is getting hit by the enemy Julii cavalry there. And if you notice that there's Macedon cavalry out there as well, that's probably going to charge into him. There's enemy units behind him as well. I think he's trying to draw away the Julii army from the main battle to maybe give Sacred and myself a chance to deal with those two pike armies. But as you can see, those pike armies are massive. As I said, there's 120 men in each one of those Macedon units, all with their long pikes. And you can see my Balearic slingers are firing slingshots into those. You can see the dead of the Macedon units there on the floor from where my slingers have done a lot of damage. Now over here on the left, there's an interesting question for you. Can you see the Killer's Brutii cavalry there? If you were in charge of that cavalry, what would you do with it? Would you take it back over to your main infantry to help yourself out against that Julii cavalry? Might you take the cavalry round the back and hit the Macedon archers? What do you think you would do with that cavalry if you were in charge? Interesting question. Let's see what he decides to do. And bang! There you go, there's your answer. He's going to charge his cavalry into the flank of that Macedon pike formation there. Now on the face of it, you may think, well, that's kind of a strange thing to do. They've got their pikes down and they do a lot of damage to his cavalry, but remembering that he's hitting them in the flank, hitting them on the side, in the weak part. Do you remember when we've talked about pike formations, where are their weakest points? Their flanks and their rear. So he decided to charge his cavalry into the flanks there, maybe to disrupt their line. He might be trying to disrupt their battle line, but also he'd be causing them a heck of a lot of casualties by hitting them in the flank. If you notice, I'm moving my Carthage army, my pikemen, Sacred Band pikemen, over here to the left. Meanwhile, over on the right, can you see that Killer's plan of drawing the enemy Julii army over? Just going to pause the game for a second here. Has worked. He's drawn all of the enemy Julii army and cavalry over here, which I think was his plan, to try and draw them away from the main battle, to maybe give Sacred and myself a chance to at least weaken the Macedon army, if not destroy them before the Julii army can get back over there. Killer will be trying his best to weaken the Julii army there, but he's by doing that, his plans worked. But as you can see, he is quite isolated over there, and they've got a lot of cavalry there that are going to smash into his standing infantry. So I just hope he'll be able to hold for a reasonable amount of time and weaken them as well. As you can see, he's bringing some of his battle damaged cavalry over here to help his beleaguered infantry. Meanwhile, back over on the left flank here, remember, all the time my slingers are firing slingshot into the enemy troops there. If you notice here that over on our right now, again, you can see there's lots of cavalry charging into Killer's army there. I'm not sure how long Killer will be able to hold there now. If this couple of Macedon cavalry units charge in as well, I would think that it wouldn't be long until his army is completely destroyed there. As I was saying, over on the left flank here, you can see that Sacred using the manoeuvrability of his units here. If you notice, a hammer and anvil attack, attacking the pike units at the front with his infantry as the anvil, then charging his cavalry in as a hammer. Routed two big Macedon units there. Nice move there by Sacred. using the flexibility and the manoeuvrability of the Roman units there. As you see, there's an overall picture of the battlefield there. I'm just going to pause the game for a second here so we can take stock of exactly what's just happened. Here you can see on the left, as I say, Sacred is doing really good with his Scipii army there. If you notice with my infantry, I'm just doing a sledgehammer attack straight into the heart of the Macedon pikemen. What my aim is here is to try and smash a hole through, punch a hole through their line. That's the sum total of the tactics I'm trying there with my army. Meanwhile, over on our right here, you can see that Killer's whole army has now been destroyed, and that the victorious Julii army are now moving over to our side of the battlefield here. You see, you've got infantry and cavalry units, and they're all coming over to us now. As you can see, they're probably going to smash into the back of our engaged infantry. There, can you see the into the back of these units here, probably be hit by cavalry and infantry, so they'll rout, and then they'll move on up the battle line and smash into the flank and rear of my troops. So what would you do at this time now, if it was you? Would you carry on fighting, or would you just press admit defeat and maybe start a new game? What do you think you would do? You can see there's loads of enemy Macedon pikemen left, and with that victorious Julii infantry and cavalry coming over, you know, I would think the battle could be quite short now. So would you just admit defeat and go on to the next one, or would you just fight on to the end just to see how it goes? What do you think you would do? Looking at all that victorious Julii army moving over here, it's as I say, it's not looking very good for the Brotherhood team, I don't think. Let's see what happens. Here you can see the enemy cavalry, as we thought, smashed straight into the back of our engaged allies' Scipii infantry there. I would think maybe our ally may decide to put some of those units into Testudo. As you know, that makes them extremely difficult to kill. Maybe buy us a bit of time over on that right there, maybe. But the thought of admitting defeat and starting another game is not in our minds now. We're just going to carry on and see how things go. As you can see, there's a heck of a lot of Macedon units left there. If you can see that Sacred's using his cavalry very well there, smashing into the back and the flank of the pike units there. As I say, you can see the victorious Julii army coming over now. And also, I think Killer fighting over there on the right has kept them far enough away, so it's a long way for them to come over. They couldn't hit us immediately, and it's allowing us to kind of do a little bit more work on those Macedon units before those victorious Julii infantry get over to us. Now, if you notice, I'm very concerned about my rear of my units there fighting. I don't want infantry and cavalry charging into the back of my engaged unit, so I'm going to put one unit there. One Sacred Band unit. I think it's got 7 upgrades. It's got a stripe, a gold. It might even have 2 stripes there. But I'm going to put him there. I'm going to put him there to try and hold back the army, the enemy army, from going into the back, into the rear of my engaged pikemen there. So that one unit, I'm hoping, just going to slow them up enough. As you see, with all that enemy force hitting that one unit, it's still holding. As I say, the Carthage Sacred Band morale is extremely good, and I think he may well have 2 stripes on that unit, so he's going to hold right down to the last few men there. And if you notice what a great job he's doing, can you see how he's holding all those units off of going into the back of my pike units? Doing a really great job there. Yeah, okay, there's a couple of enemy Julii units have overlapped him and come round the flank, but I'm just going to turn a couple of my pike units to face them.
Enemy general has been killed. Now we will see the measure of his soldiers.
That unit's still holding now, look, even against all those units pressing against him. And if you notice now, we managed to rout a heck of a lot of those Macedon pike units now. If you notice, Sacred's been using his cavalry extremely skillfully, smashing into the back of them, into those pike units in the hammer and anvil attack that we've talked about on several of our battle videos. As you can see now, because we've managed to rout so many of those Mastodon units, I can now turn some of my Carthage units facing rear against the threat of the enemy coming in behind us.
Now we will see the measure of his soldiers' courage.
As you can see, Sacred's moving his infantry around quite a lot here, using the manoeuvrability and the flexibility of the Roman units there.
Units, move out.
If you notice now, I'm managing to turn my Carthage Sacred Band units now facing the Mastodon units that got in behind us, and also the victorious Julii units that came over from our right flank there. So what seemed to be a very precarious position for us earlier, where we were thinking, you know, some people might have thought we may as well admit defeat and go into the next battle. If you've noticed now, we've managed to turn things around a little bit here now. And if you notice that Killer's cavalry, yes, he lost his army over on the right there, drawing the enemy away, but he's still got cavalry units. So if you notice, he's smashing them in and hitting into Macedon units. Once again in a hammer and anvil attack, my infantry or Sacred's infantry being the anvil, and Killer's cavalry being the hammer there. My guess is that the Macedon pikemen probably had some good upgrades on, so they are probably rally now. Some of their units may well rally. So even though at the moment things are looking very good for us, all you need is some of those pike units to start to rally and maybe form some kind of defensive formation, and things could still look pretty bad for us. All my units that I've got left are extremely battle damaged. So as I say, if they manage to form some kind of defensive formation with units that have routed, it could still be a problem for us. If you notice there, he's alt-attacked with his archers there. If you notice, they've got their daggers out, their small knives, and they attacked into the rear of my units. Right, here you can see some of the Macedon units that have rallied now, starting to form a formation. And remember, all the time, the Macedon Cretan archers are firing fire arrows into my Carthage Sacred Band. And as some of you may know, not only does that cause casualties, but it actually lowers morale and can make units panic. There's some close in fighting. Can you see the length of those Macedon pikes in comparison to my Sacred Band length of their pikes? And remember that any infantry facing long pike infantry have got to fight their way down those pikes before they can even kill them. Here's a Macedon cavalry hit going in, and bang! As some of you may know, the Macedon companion cavalry attack is very high. I'm not sure if it's 9, but it is a big hit when they go in there. Right, just pause the game here for us to take stock of the situation. As you can see, there's a lot of enemy pikemen left, and there's enemy Julii infantry there as well, coming in behind my infantry. So there's a lot of pikemen, lots of, okay, they're very battle damaged unit, but there are Julii infantry around, plus we're getting fire arrowed from Macedon archers there. So that's the situation there. And here we have Sacred's units. There's his units. There's got a few infantry units left and a little bit of cavalry, but they're extremely battle damaged as well. So at the moment, the battle is still in the balance. As you can see here, they've still got Cretan archers, lots of Cretan archers firing fire arrows into my units. As I said earlier, that lowers morale as well as causing damage, casualties. So let's see what happens.
We're being attacked!
There you go, some enemy infantry charging into the rear of my Carthage Sacred Band. I've just turned a unit to face them. Well, the rest of my Sacred Band units, I'm pushing in towards the Macedon pikemen. Now, as you can see there, can you see the length of those Macedon pikes in comparison to my Carthage Sacred Band pikes there, as I've said earlier? Did you notice that Sacred just brought in a cavalry unit to take out, charge into the back of that Julio unit that was attacking my rear? And here's a close-up of the Sacred Band actually attacking the Macedon Royal pikemen here. And as you can see, the Macedon units have got to really work hard to fight down those long pikes to get to those Macedon pikemen. As you can see, the enemy Julii infantry is trying to hold up Sacred's infantry from getting in behind the Macedon infantry. As you know, pike infantry's weak spots are the rear and the flanks, and that's where Sacred's trying to get in. As you can see, there's still a Macedon cavalry unit there roaming the battlefield. They could make the difference hitting just at the right spot, and a weakened unit could start a chain rout here. And there you can see that cavalry unit charging in, and bang! See the impact of that cavalry charge into the back of my Sacred Band units there. That was kind of like a hammer and anvil attack, the Macedon infantry being the anvil and that cavalry being the hammer. But Sacred Band guys with good upgrades have got great morale, and they held well there. And here you can see that the Carthage, can you see how this Carthage Sacred Band have actually fought their way down those pikes and are now engaging the pikemen there, and have managed to force them to retreat. So as you can see, we've only got a few battle damaged units left now, Sacred and myself.
Your skillful command has snatched a victory from the jaws of defeat.
But it looks like, from what I said earlier, like you could see where maybe we should have. Some people may well have thought, okay, let's admit defeat and go on to the next game. But we decided to carry on fighting, and we managed to turn that battle around. I'm sure a lot of people watching that and seeing the victorious Julii army moving over from right over to our side of the battlefield, would probably thought the game was probably over at that stage. But I'd just like to start saying really well played to both teams there. I thought the other team played extremely well and showed their experience. I thought Scorpion Kings played excellently, and I thought the two Macedon generals showed their skill and their experience with using those pike factions. Really well done to that other team. I'd also like to say really well done to Killer. I thought his tactic of drawing away the Julii infantry to try and give Sacred and myself a chance to weaken the Macedon armies, he kind of sacrificed himself for the team there. So really well done to Killer, and really well done to Sacred. Some really great cavalry moves. As you can see, the kills that he's got there, really great kills. I just thought I'd show you the individual kill counts of the units here. You can see a lot of the Sacred Band units have killed a lot higher numbers than the casualties they suffered themselves, and the slingers didn't do too badly either. So it just shows you the individual kill counts there. So I'd just like to say once again, really well done to both teams there. It was a great close battle to be in, and this is Spartan Commander saying hope you enjoyed the battle and look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.